Good afternoon and a warm welcome to MotoGP's newest venue, a new era, a new dawn for the MotoGP World Championship as we break new ground and hit new territory at the Bud International Circuit. It's the Indian Oil Grand Prix of India, round 13 of 20 in this year's MotoGP World Championship, the 30th different country to host a Grand Prix since 1949. India becomes the 8th different Asian nation to host a Grand Prix. 74th different track on the Grand Prix calendar, 31st in the modern MotoGP era. And what a first experience, what a first taste it has been here. We're on the outskirts of the vibrant, the hustling and bustling New Delhi, the capital city of India. We've had such a warm welcome. It has been namaste throughout this first visit to India. A Grand Prix that kicks off one of the busiest periods in Grand Prix history. This is the first of 8 races in 10 weeks on our 7-race overseas tour. Fans young and old, this has been fantastic to see. The Indian fans welcoming us with open arms, embracing the wonderful spectacle that is the MotoGP World Championship. A championship which is turning into a pretty thrilling duel right now between two current stars of this beloved sport of ours. Pecco Bagnaia, the reigning world champion, trying to build on a 33-point lead he has over Jorge Martin, coming into this 21-lap Indian Oil Grand Prix of India. But the momentum, the form man in MotoGP right now is Jorge Martin, the Tissot sprint winner over 11 laps yesterday afternoon. And that means he's done the double in the Sachsenring, the double in Misano last time out, and he can complete another dream double here then at the Bud International Circuit. Standing in his way could well be this man, 26-year-old Italian Pecco Bagnaia, the reigning world champion. 11 sprint podiums in 13 for him as he tries to build on that 33-point lead in the championship. We've been looking forward to this Indian Grand Prix for many a year. Finally, we can say MotoGP has hit India. India loves MotoGP. Well, trust us, MotoGP loves India as well. The first of many visits, we hope, to this part of the world. A country populated by nearly 1.5 billion people. New Delhi alone has a population of 32 million. Great to see some of them have come to get their first taste of Grand Prix motorcycle racing. In the company of myself, Matt Burt, Lewis Sotheby, as always, joining me in the commentary box with Simon Crafar down in pit lane and on the grid very, very shortly as we start the build-up then to a moment of history. Marco Bezzecchi. A case of what might have been yesterday, Lewis, in that Tissot sprint. A sensational pole position for the Mini VR46 Ducati rider, but it all went horribly wrong about 5 seconds into that 11-lap sprint after he got walloped from behind by his teammate Luca Marini. Sadly, Marini sidelined from today's action with a fractured left collarbone, which will also rule him out of next weekend's Japanese Grand Prix Motegi. But this man then went about launching a sensational fight back after all of this early drama.
Yeah, Marco Bezzecchi, who hadn't got the best of starts from pole position. As you can see, he was already well behind Jorge Martin off the line, but Luca Marini, who you can see there, already recognises what's about to happen, just could not get that Ducati stopped into turn 1, piling into the back of his teammate Marco Bezzecchi. There was a second incident, as you can see there further back, with Stefan Bradl and Pol Espargaro out of contention. This was what it looked like from on board Marc Marquez, who was, fortunately for him, on the inside of everything that was going on. There go the two Mini 46 Ducatis disappearing out of picture on the left. The impact that you're about to watch from on board Bezzecchi was so big that it set Marco Bezzecchi's airbag off, that he had to deflate as he went around that first lap. Bezzecchi's pace in the remainder of the sprint that we saw yesterday over 11 laps was sensational. Here you'll see the airbag deployed for Marco as he comes around turn 2 into turn 3. But Marco Bezzecchi had the pace to win that sprint yesterday, no question about it. He was lapping frequently in the 144s, was able to chase up all the way into 5th place. Today will hopefully get the answer to the question that's been lingering since the sprint yesterday, is that if Marco Bezzecchi gets away undeterred, or undelayed, can he take the fight? Can he beat yesterday's sprint winner, Jorge Martin?
Only 11 laps in the 144s were set in yesterday's sprint, and 8 of them were completed by Bezzecchi on that brilliant charge back through the field. It was not the start to our overseas world tour that the factory Aprilia team were wanting. They were pretty dismal on the overseas tour 12 months ago, weren't they? The Inawali factory. And the latest Spargo, after dramas trying to leave pit lane, is Ranveer Singh, actor, very popular of course in India, meeting several Dorna dignitaries. Paolo Ciabatti there, the tour guide, as some of the locals come and experience the first taste of MotoGP action. As you mentioned, Bezzecchi, 11 laps in the 144s, and 8 of them are completed by him in that sprint. He certainly felt like he had the speed that he needed to go with Jorge Martin. Martin will tell you that he was keeping something in reserve as Marc Marquez then surrounded, swamped by the Indian fans, getting a glimpse, getting up close, trying to get the selfie, trying to get the autographs from the 8-times world champion. Is this the start? Is this him winding down to the end of his factory Honda career? Well, the media reports suggest that's very much the case. Marc Marquez, though, still very much tight-lipped on his 2024 plans. Will all be revealed next weekend in Honda's vital home Grand Prix in Motegi in Japan, with so many rumours about Marquez switching to Gresini Ducati next year. It's been a good first visit to India for him. This was a move on the inside of Joan Mir in the sprint yesterday that put him on the podium places, a third place that he wasn't to relinquish, despite some big pressure coming from behind him from Brad Binder. Never easy to keep the hard-charging South African, the factory KTM, behind him, but that's exactly what Marquez did. He did so, he said, courtesy of his last 5 laps, basically being qualifying laps. He really did stick his neck on the line, and he was rewarded his first TSO sprint podium since round 1 in Portimao.
Yeah, he's still looking for his first Sunday podium of the season. It would be his first Grand Prix race podium since the Australian Grand Prix of last season in Phillip Island. But this is the rider that we're literally trying to catch. Our cameraman couldn't quite keep up there with Jorge Martin as he raced into the back of the Pramac box. Let's hope for the rest of the field that that's not the view they'll be seeing in the early stages of this Grand Prix, because Jorge Martin scampered off into the distance on the opening lap of yesterday's sprint. Of course, the absence of Marco Bezzecchi at the front of the field certainly helped Jorge Martin, but as far as Pecco Bagnaia was concerned, he had no answer for Jorge Martin yesterday afternoon. If Martin can convert yet another double, he would take further points out of Pecco Bagnaia in this increasingly intriguing World Championship battle. A big afternoon, an important 21 laps ahead of Jorge Martin. He looks to continue this momentum in the World Championship battle.
Martin led every lap of the sprint in Misano. He led every lap of the Grand Prix in Misano. He led every lap of the inaugural Indian sprint yesterday. And he's going to take some beating, isn't he, in this 21-lap race coming up very, very shortly. As we mentioned, not an easy Indian Grand Prix so far for the factory Aprilia team. Malaysia Spargo tumbling out of contention yesterday. Maverick Vinales taking the checker flag in a somewhat underwhelming 8th place. Are they slightly more confident about their prospects in the full Grand Prix this afternoon? Well, let's get some thoughts from Massimo Rivola, Aprilia boss. You joined Simon. Good afternoon, guys.
Good afternoon. Massimo, sick here. Because, you know, with the Formula One all those years ago, and can you tell us a bit about the difference in those years that have passed, but also how it's going for Aprilia here? I guess it's not hoped.
In fact, more than second. I think we came more than 1 year in with F1, at least 2, if not 3. Now it looks like it's much better everywhere, I have to say. So the organizer did a good job. It would be nice to see the full grandstands, because we come here for a reason, and we want to see a lot of crowd. But anyway, let's hope for the future. Regarding our performance, we are not there, clearly. We kind of expected a bit, because this is at the end is a big track, but it's a stop and go track. You brake and use a lot first and second. And then you put the high gears only really when you are on the straight. So you don't have really high-speed corners where we are actually strong. So it's going to be quite a difficult race. Let's see the degradation of the tires. It's going to be interesting. Most of the guys, I think, will start with the age in front and the soft behind, I think. and let's see if the last few laps, even if there will be less lap than was expected at the beginning, if there will be someone struggling or not. It doesn't look like that. It's going to be a tough race, really, for all the fourth Aprilia. But I'm happy that I saw Raul getting a good confidence. So let's see his growth also till the end of the season. And I hope Miguel, that struggle all over the weekend a bit, have another good race. And obviously, still you expect from Malaysia Maverick something exceptional, but this time it seems to be a bit more difficult.
Massimo, thank you for your time as always. Best of luck in the race.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Massimo Rivelli. Yeah, it has been a tough debut on Indian soil for the factory Aprilia. It's one of their leading lights. We haven't said that very often, have we? It's been Ralph Fernandez at Crypto Data R&F, fresh off the back of his first ever visit to Q2 in Misano, and then a career best MotoGP Sunday finish of 8th place. He followed up with his first sprint point yesterday in 9th and was back in Q2 again, wasn't he? Ralph Fernandez, who's very rarely this weekend, for the first time in a long time, completely overshadows his struggling teammate Miguel Oliveira, whose woes continued this morning when he crashed in this morning's warm-up session. And Oliveira's found it very, very difficult. The highest he's been in any session so far this weekend has been 17th. His worst qualifying since the Malaysian Grand Prix 1 year ago. Didn't see Oliveira's slump coming this weekend, Lewis. It's been tough going, to say the least.
Particularly given that the form that he's carried into this Grand Prix. Oliveira inside the top 6 in each of the last 2 Sunday afternoon Grand Prix. He's going to have a tall order to get up to the top 6 today, starting from 17th on the grid. We saw Aleix Espargaro there within the Aprilia box. It was also a sprint to forget for the 41 yesterday. Crashed out in the end after already making a mistake out turn 3, which left him towards the back of the field. The Saturday started with Aleix Espargaro turning the hazy air blue here in New Delhi after a massive tantrum at the team after they got their timing wrong at the start of qualifying 2. Aleix Espargaro, in his defence, did come up with a fulsome apology on social media following that little outburst during qualifying 2. But he'll be hoping to do his talking on the track here this afternoon. Aleix Espargaro, he will be promoted onto the 3rd row of the grid for this afternoon's race due to the injury absence of Luca Marini.
Well, the man we're looking at on your screens right now, Jorge Martin, says we're looking at the best version of the number 89 that we've seen since he burst onto the scene in Grand Prix racing, with an Indian backing, of course. A nice little story, a nice little sub-note of this Indian Grand Prix, our first visit. Mahindra, of course, the former Moto3 manufacturer. The top 4 riders in MotoGP. What a platform, what a school it was for our top 4 men in the championship. Pecco Bagnaia, Jorge Martin, Marco Bezzecchi and Brad Binder either scored their first podium or their first Grand Prix victory riding for Mahindra. And it's been a pleasure actually to catch up with their former boss, Mufid Al-Tunia, who has turned up this weekend. He's been greeted, he's been welcomed with open arms. I've seen him posting pictures with Bagnaia and with Bezzecchi, who he helped launch their MotoGP careers, and he did so with this man. Jorge Martin then, can he eat into that 33-point championship lead that Pecco Bagnaia holds coming into this Grand Prix? 8 sprint podiums now, 4 wins for the 25-year-old Spaniard. And it was a good job he did in that sprint yesterday, because pre-sprint he crashed in the morning in the 3rd practice session at turn number 8. As we mentioned then, fans young and old, some support for Aprilia in the grandstands as we get set for this milestone, first ever Indian Grand Prix for over 21 laps of the Bud International Circuit. And in this extreme heat and humidity, Lewis, this Michelin tyre choice is going to play a very significant role in what's to come in about 25 minutes' time.
Well, we heard Massimo Rivelli there giving his impressions of what he suspects that the rest of the field will start on. It's a Grand Prix that is going to be punishing for the tyres, it's going to be punishing for the bodies out there. Of course, a shortened race distance. This was originally going to be a 24-lap Indian Grand Prix. Following Friday's practice action, that was reduced to 21 laps due to the intense heat and humidity here. We are way into the 30s here, with 35 degrees when we came on air for the start of our race day coverage here in New Delhi. So you can imagine the riders will be gasping for some fresh air later on in this Grand Prix, and this is not the kind of circuit that gives you much of a rest. It is a very technical track layout, particularly in the second half of it. So the riders will be certainly pushed to the absolute limit physically over the course of the 21 laps that lie ahead of us.
Pecco Bagnaia on Friday at the end of day one here, he said as you got your chin resting on the fuel tank to make yourself as aerodynamic as you possibly can down that 1200-metre back straight, if the sensation was his throat was burning, his neck was getting scorched. Maverick Vinales was unequivocal. He said now this Indian Grand Prix will be the toughest physical and mental examination that the MotoGP riders face on the entire World Championship schedule. Tougher and more exerting on the body than the likes of Buriram in Thailand, Lombok in Indonesia and Sepang in Malaysia. Forthcoming races as we build up to what looks like being a high pressure, high tension and high drama championship battle between Pecco Bagnaia and Jorge Martin, of course former teammates in that Mahindra team supported by India all the way a few years ago. The crowd look on then, you can just feel that buzz of anticipation filling the air here as the riders come to the grid. We saw there the get one message, didn't we, a few moments ago. We'll just cover up a couple of housekeeping notes to bring you. Luca Marini, fractured left collarbone after his tangle with Marco Bezzecchi at the start of the sprint. Already back in Europe for surgery on that one. Out, of course, today and out of next weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. And poor Alex Marquez and the Gresini Ducati. A big crash at the end of Q1 for Alex, ahead of what would have been his 200th Grand Prix start this afternoon. A real nasty one, a painful blow to his left rib cage, and it has left Marquez with 3 broken ribs. So Alex Marquez will also be ruled out of next weekend's Japanese Grand Prix. They're a little bit light in numbers next weekend, Ducati, because of course Enea Bastianini also sidelined. Muni VR46 hopes then resting on the shoulders of poleman Marco Bezzecchi. What a recovery he mounted yesterday from dead last to 5th in the sprint. Can he go back onto the top step of the podium this afternoon? Let's get some pre-race thoughts of his team boss Pablo Nieto, who's with Simon.
He is. Pablo, the ride from Marco Bezzecchi yesterday was quite stunning, so we're all looking forward to seeing what he can do today. We spoke earlier today about the tyre choice. You were saying that you still hadn't made a decision. Have you, and how are you feeling about Marco this afternoon?
Oh yeah, yesterday we make a messy race. Anyway, today is completely new day, new race. It's going to be very, very hard. Now we have to see what are they doing for the tire. I think we will use the soft one like everyone, but it's going to be very hard in the end of the race. But anyway, if everyone are the same, choose for the tire, I think we can do a very good race.
You used to ride yourself. You're in close contact with your rider today, but give us an idea how hard you think it's going to be to get to the end physically.
It's going to be very, very hard. Now you can see the humidity and how hot it is, but also the bike is going to be very hot because it's like a heater, no? You have like a heater down from your body, so it's going to be really hard. But anyway, I think we can make a fantastic race. We have to try to do our best, and I will let you know later.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thanks to Simon Crafar, thanks to Pablo Nieto. On the grid graphic there that we just saw, a couple of interesting tyre choice, particularly with the front. The only big deviation that we saw on that graphic was particularly right at the head of it, and the World Championship leader. The top 6, bar Bagnaia on the medium front soft rear, although Pecco Bagnaia came to the grid at least. The initial information we have from Michelin is the world champion will start the 21-lap race with the hard front tyre. But we can find out exactly what his status is in terms of tyre selection and how he's feeling ahead of what's going to be a gruelling 21 laps. Let's get some thoughts from Ducati Lenovo team manager Davide Tardozzi, who joins Simon.
Yes, Davide might have trouble hearing and speaking over the commentary in the background in the grandstand, but Davide, traditionally, over this season we've seen, and last, that your engineers get together with Pecco and make a step forward ready for Sunday. I'm wondering, do you feel that you've managed to do that? What do you expect for the race and who to be there?
I think that it will be a very tough race for Pecco. Anyway, we tried something this morning in the warm-up that honestly doesn't work properly like Pecco would like. But anyway, in this new racetrack, we see that it's possible to have a different riding style. And it seems to me that with Bezzecchi and Martin, it works very well. Why it's not perfect for Pecco, but anyway, there are racetracks that you can go fast, racetracks that you are less fast. But we we try to be on the podium, and when you are always on the podium, it's good.
Thank you, Davide. Good luck.
Yeah, thanks, Davide Tardozzi. Thanks to Simon Crafar. Yeah, it has been consistency, which of course is stating the obvious when you're trying to build a World Championship defence, but that certainly applies to Bagnaia, doesn't it? Yesterday was his 11th sprint podium in 13. He's had 8 Grand Prix podiums as well so far this season, with 5 wins so far. This is one of those few occasions, though, where you do feel like it may well be a case of just amassing as many points as he possibly can, because over the course of this Indian Grand Prix weekend so far, Lewis, it has been crystal clear from the timesheets that Bagnaia has not been at the level of Martin and Bezzecchi.
Well, he got in through to Q2 at the end of Friday's practice session, but he didn't get through by much, did he? It was certainly a close run thing late on in Friday afternoon session for Pecco Bagnaia, and he's not looked his usual dominant, comfortable self so far this weekend. The injury issues and the physical pain that he was in Misano, where he was destroyed at the end of that Grand Prix, they're not as big an inconvenience for him here this weekend. He might be destroyed at the end of this Grand Prix, but for very different reasons, due to the heat and humidity that the riders will be faced with here. And he wants to understand, really, where Jorge Martin has stolen this march on him, because Pecco Bagnaia's great strength, really, so far through this year, particularly against the other Ducatis, has been his ability to stop the bike. But that has not been Pecco Bagnaia's strength so far this weekend. He's been grappling with a lot of chattering on the rear as he's tried to get that Ducati stopped. So Bagnaia potentially on his back foot here with this afternoon.
Injury absences for the likes of Luca Marini and Alex Marquez mean that Brad Binder gets bumped up to the back of the 4th row of the grid in 12th place ahead of this Indian Grand Prix. A stunning charge, as always, from the South African to take 4th behind Marc Marquez in yesterday's sprint. His teammate Jack Miller goes from a couple of places further back in 14th. What are the KTM hopes in this inaugural Indian Grand Prix? Well, let's get some thoughts from their team manager, Francesco Guidotti, who's with Simon.
Yeah, can you hear me there, over there? Sorry about that. I've been watching all season, and regularly your mechanics give him something extra on Sunday. Have you managed to do it, you believe?
No, I think he has something extra on Sunday. We try to give the best bike possible, but it's the rider that for sure make the extra job.
He always gives you and his crew the credit. But anyway, give us a few words on Jack as well.
Yeah, he had a good start yesterday and then managed the position pretty well. The race pace was good. 11 laps only, but yeah, today with another good start, I think he can be in the. I'm not sure for the leading group, but for sure in the second group.
One last question: what are the difficulties going to be today in the long GP?
I think physically first, because it's very hot and humid, and and manage the tire on a good rhythm, on a speed. So it's not only a matter to be safe, but to be fast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. Thanks to Francesco Guidotti. New situation for Jack Miller today, because of course it's his first Grand Prix race on a Sunday as a new father. Congratulations once again to the Miller clan, the Miller family, particularly to his wife Ruby, new parents, of course to beautiful bouncing baby daughter Pip, as Pol Espargaro tries to keep himself cool. All the riders are using the special ice jackets, aren't they? This is going to be a tough one. Pol Espargaro, he said he was absolutely destroyed, shattered, barely able to breathe, suffering from heat exhaustion, and that was just after a couple laps in time attack mode. What will it be like over 21 grueling, punishing race laps for machinery and riders alike? You can see there Taka Nakagami, another rider that's got the specialised jacket on as well, just trying to keep yourself as cool as you possibly can, because the ambient temperature's crept up to 35 degrees, and that's not factoring in the humidity as well. Not a great start to this Indian Grand Prix for the factory Yamaha team, with Fabio Quattrozzi soft and us, got his head down, pushed on, and for only the 3rd time this season scored sprint race points yesterday. How are the Yamaha shaping up over this Indian Oil Grand Prix? Vinny, well, let's find out, because Simon Crafar is joined by their team manager, Maio Meregali.
Yes, Maio, it was a tough day for Franco yesterday. He mentioned he was experimenting with a few things. Fabio put in a great ride, but he wasn't so happy yesterday evening. What are you thinking going into this one?
Anyway, as you already pointed out yesterday, Franco had a few issues, and then he just, as he said, used the race as a practice. He tried to understand how maybe to improve the bike for today. And Fabio, I think he put everything in his pocket. And luckily this morning we were able to make a little step. The bike was less nervous in changing direction on the throttle, and I was quite satisfied. So, as you probably know, now the gamble was the rear tire compound, because between the soft and the medium, anyway, the difference is close. This morning with the medium, the feeling was not that good. So we are just using the last few minutes to really understand in which way to go. And hopefully a good start, and then he has to manage it.
Thank you, Mayo. Good luck.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks to Mayo Meregali. Thanks then to Simon Crafart. As the countdown now well and truly underway, isn't it? To a memorable day in sporting history in India. Dorna CEO Kamala Svaletta welcomes local dignitaries. First time in over 7 decades we are racing in India. The fans, they've been full of excitement. This is the moment they've been waiting for so many years, as we are, just about 10 minutes away from the start of this Indian Oil Grand Prix of India. The traditional pre-race grid ceremony will be underway very, very shortly. That's coming away in just under a couple of minutes' time. There's Christian Gavarini there, just having a few last-minute words of instructions to Pekka Bagnaia, who's trying to solve this pretty complex puzzle right now. How do you stop the marauding Jorge Martin from making it back-to-back double victories in 2023? Just going to have our commentary box window here. Some of the palm trees and some of the trees, they've just started to blow about in the breeze that's picked up a little bit. And when the wind picked up yesterday afternoon, well, we were hit by torrential rain. We've got everything crossed in the commentary box that some early weather forecaster did predict rain at some point here on race day. They are going to stay away. We're going to get a full dry 21-lap MotoGP race underway here in just a few minutes' time. Maverick Vinales then on the factory Aprilia comes to the middle of the third row. 1 place ahead of his factory Aprilia teammate Aleix Espargaro. The fans are certainly hyped up, they're certainly pumped up. I've got to say, the local circuit announcers doing a fantastic job of whipping up the atmosphere here on the grid in the main grandstand. Jorge Martin coming to the grid as late as he possibly can. I'm sure he's just been plonked in front of the fans and getting as much air conditioning as he possibly can to keep himself cool in the extreme heat and humidity here at the Bud International Circuit. As we will take a pause very, very shortly to kick off a very special and first ever pre-race grid ceremony here in India.
पंजाब सिंध गुजरात मराठा द्राविड़ उत्कल बंगा विंध्य हिमाचल यमुना गंगा उच्छल जलधि तरंग तब शुभ नामे जागे तब शुभ आशीष मांगे गाहे तब जय गाथा जनगण मंगलदायक जय है भारत भाग्य विधाता जय है जय है जय है जय 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 है
landmark day in the MotoGP World Championship. The Indian fans are making plenty of noise, and the MotoGP race, the first ever Indian Grand Prix, is just under 8 minutes away. Can Jorge Martin complete a second consecutive double? He starts from the front row of the grid. Jean Zarco goes from the second row. Let's get the pre-race thoughts of Prima Parent Racing boss Gino Bolsoi with Simon.
Gino, we'd love your thoughts going into this one. Jorge was magnificent yesterday. This is a much longer race. Please tell us about both of your riders.
Well, for sure today will be completely different compared to yesterday, much more longer as you said, and especially for the rear tire and physical condition will be so hard. They have to manage from the beginning. The pace of yesterday, it's something that they cannot keep for all the race. They have to try to go at least I think around 1 second slower, 6 kilos more on the fuel tank. Really difficult to finish the race with the rear tire. So let's see. But it could be one of the most difficult races.
Thank you, Gino, and good luck.
Thank you.
Thanks, Simon. As John Abraham, Bollywood actor, goes out for a ceremonial lap of this Bud International circuit. Just over 6 minutes until this Grand Prix gets underway. The true superstars of MotoGP will be taking to the track in a few moments. Big decisions to be taken regarding tyres. Many going to the grid with the softer rear tyre. 1 or 2 initially went to the grid on the hard front, but what will the final decisions be? For an insight onto the tyre conundrum, let's head to the grid. Simon Crefo is with Piero Taramasso.
Piero, a lot of team managers talking about tyres. Can you give us your thoughts on your rubber?
Yes, tire choice is the same for all the riders. They choose the soft on the rear because they liked yesterday during the sprint. He did well, and they didn't feel any big drop. But from our simulation, for the full race distance, for the 21 laps, we will see some drop in the tire for sure, because the soft compound is not designed for that. But the riders, they said, okay, we will take the risk, and we will try to manage a little bit just to try to finish the race. But for me, this is the key. The riders, he will manage better the rear tire. He will be the guy on the podium.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Simon. Thanks to Piero Taramasso. So tyre choice, pivotal. Who is going to manage that rear tyre, manage that front tyre, manage themselves, of course, as well. You don't want to overstress the body. First time this season that both Repsol Hondas have been inside the top 10 on the grid. That stat there tells you a clear picture of the current woes that HRC are having, and will the misery be piled on even further by Marc Marquez potentially announcing his departure. He is contracted to Honda for 2024. But all the hot rumours here in India in particular, they've been picking up more momentum. It's ebbed and flowed, hasn't it? Will he stay or will he go? Well, initially he was leaving to the Gresini Ducati, then he was staying at Repsol Honda, but now the smart money on Marc Marquez potentially going to Gresini Ducati in 2024.
Maverick Vinales contemplating what lies in store of him, starting from 8th on the grid. As we've already discussed so far, it's not necessarily been a profitable circuit for Aprilia so far this weekend. Vinales certainly not appearing to have the kind of pace that he saw for much of the Misano weekend, where ultimately, despite some promising pace on Friday and Saturday, he didn't have an answer for the Ducatis in the race. The Aprilia's then going from 8th, 9th, 10th, and in Miguel Oliveira's case, 17th on the grid. Fabio Quartararo, who really did put that Yamaha in places that perhaps we weren't expecting it to be yesterday, came home at the end of that sprint in 6th place, but that was about the maximum that was on offer for Fabio Quartararo. Promoted up to 7th on the grid here this afternoon, taking the opportunity with his quick adaptation to this Bud International circuit, much like Marc Marquez here on our screens, to put himself in lofty surroundings, but can he hang around at the front of the field from 7th on the grid?
The fans are ready. We're ready for this first ever Bud International circuit MotoGP battle over 21 laps. I've got to say, there's a cracking atmosphere in the main grandstand overlooking this grid. The safety car is about to peel away then to kick off the countdown in earnest as Jorge Martin looks to close 33-point deficit on Pecco Bagnaia in the World Championship. There goes the BMW safety car then. Grid about to be cleared. Some late words of encouragement there you can see for poleman Marco Bezzecchi. His first mission in this Indian Oil Grand Prix of India will be just emerge unscathed from any potential first corner drama. Your front row of the grid then. Reigning world champion Pecco Bagnaia starts from third. 11 sprint podiums in 13, trying for a 6th Grand Prix win of the season. Middle of the front row, the form man, the man of the moment in MotoGP, Jorge Martin, sprint winner yesterday, but it's Marco Bezzecchi who blitzes from pole in a boiling but international circuit. The wait is over. The moment we've all been waiting for has finally arrived as MotoGP Mania hits India for the very first time